a personal, and I can ask you all to go back to your own houses or to your offices and do the same study. Map the differences between US dollar, the volatility between the US dollar and Indian rupee, and the volatility between the US dollar with any other top country you can think of, and see the difference. Virtually, the volatility is almost the same. We just don't have a problem just in India. Our problems are universal. We need to think about that very clearly in India. The reason I'm trying to say that more again and again is that the more we think the problem is Indian, and the more we think like that, the more we tend to try to solve that problem locally. But I can tell you from my experience, being on the board of the IASB for at least 2 years now, I can tell you no problem we think in India is just pertaining to India. It is a global problem. And I will touch on 4 or 5 issues which will highlight the issue. There is a lot of discussion about fair value accounting. There is a lot of discussion about agricultural accounting. There is a lot of discussion about the foreign currency, the AS11. And there is a lot of discussion about revenue recognition. Let me take just 4 issues, and I don't want to go too much into detail with that. Before we think about it, I just want to quote from Mahatma Gandhi what he said not too long ago, 60 odd years ago. If it's a man's privilege to be independent, it's equally his duty to be interdependent. He also said, complete independence does not mean arrogant isolation or a superior disdain to all help. The reason I'm saying this is that do not think your problem is isolated. Do not think that your problem is just yourself. The problem that we have is very much global. India is not a small country anymore. Whatever we do, the world is watching us with interest. Everywhere I go, people ask me a question, what is India doing on this issue? What is India's stance? When is India adopting? What is India's stance on this particular accounting issue? What is India's stance on the financial instruments? What is India's stance on revenue recognition? World is paying tremendous attention. If every 6th person in this world is an Indian, I think the world needs to know what our opinion is, what our idea is. And what are we doing on that? Mohan touched on it. Let me share with that in a few minutes. But let me come back to fair value accounting. A lot of people, mistakenly in my opinion, think that India or many countries should not have fair value accounting because fair value accounting will be misused, abused, and we do not have the expertise in India to do fair value accounting. Friends, Infosys is where Infosys is, or Wipro where Wipro is, and they have recruited a lot of people who have not seen a computer. But Indians were there to solve the Y2K problem. And you all agree with me that has led to a global revolution in terms of IT industry. Why do you think that Indians cannot do the fair value accounting? Why do you think we do not have the expertise? It's just that we never had to do it to date. Just because we never had to do it to date, it does not mean we will not be able to rise to the occasion. I take it as a personal insult as a chartered accountant if somebody tells me that as Indians we are not capable of doing fair value accounting. That is a complete wrong statement in my mind. We need to think more clearly. Fair value accounting is one of the tools we have. Fair value accounting does not give answers to every situation. Nobody at the IASB thinks that we need to do more fair value accounting. What we think is that fair value accounting, like any other measurement tool, is an important tool that needs to be used selectively and as required. It does not mean we should have fair value accounting in all occasions. But having no fair value accounting is equally wrong, like having fair value accounting for everything else. So please bear in mind that nobody at the IASB is interested in making fair value accounting at every place. The SEC has done a study, the Securities and Exchange Commission, our SEBI's equivalent in America, has done a study at the request of the Congress, and came out with a study, and it is on the website. It is something I'm quoting from the website. They have come out with this website, with a study saying that fair value accounting was not the cause for the financial crisis. And a regulator has said that publicly, that a fair value accounting is not the cause of the financial crisis, but the same study has clearly pointed out that both the US GAAP and the IFRS were not comprehensive enough to deal with the issues that might come up in the financial instruments, the banking industry. As a result, the G20 has asked us to work on an expeditious basis to complete the accounting for financial instruments. My worry is that we are completing that by June 30th, 2011. And India, for example, is adopting, as of now, AS 30, which is the broken standard of IAS 39. And I'm very eager to see how India is going to converge into the new financial instrument standards. It's very important in the financial sector that India converges 100% into the international standards, because Americans and the International Accounting Standards Body are working extremely hard at the behest of G20 to converge standards in the financial instruments. It's extremely important. AS 30 needs to be changed, because AS 30 is based on a standard which is IAS 39, which we at the IASB has openly acknowledged it's a broken standard, something we need to think about it. The second issue where the fair value accounting debate is currently going on in India is the IAS 41, the agricultural accounting. Friends, I can tell you, agricultural accounting fair value does not make sense to me also. But the problem is, where is India in the debate? Do you know who is leading the debate in changing the agricultural accounting? India has decided not to notify, to the best of my knowledge, agricultural accounting that is there in the US, in the IFRS currently under the Indian accounting standards. But the country that is leading the discussion on the agricultural accounting is not India. Can anybody guess and tell me who is leading the agricultural accounting debate in the world? It's a tiny country. It's Malaysia. Malaysia may not be the size of Karnataka, but they are leading the effort, global effort, in changing the US international standard for agricultural accounting, because they believe the accounting is wrong, and their conclusion is no different from us in India, that our accounting is wrong. But who is leading the debate? It's the Malaysians. And I feel really sad as a board member to see smaller countries leading the charge than countries like us, who have a much bigger issue to deal with, but we are somehow not joining the discussion there. That's something we need to think about, because global accounting standards are not made by 15 board members sitting in London. If we have to sit in London and make up accounting standards, those accounting standards are going to be a disaster. The accounting standards that we need to come up with needs to be on a collaborative effort. By collaborative effort, we need to have discussion at all levels. And that will happen only when forums like this, forums elsewhere in the country, talk, discuss, robustly criticize. If you do not criticize an accounting standard, if you do not participate in the process, it is not going to be a good standard. And I, for one, my term is limited. It's not a permanent job for me at the IASB. My term is limited, but all I want to ensure is that we have a more debate in India, more recognition of the Indian thought process in the international accounting standard. We have a lot to contribute, but we need to participate in a collaborative effort. And just criticizing does not do good, but come up with a solution. Come up with a comment letter. Why you think an accounting standard is wrong? What is wrong? Why it is not? Why we need to change that needs to be really thought through. That's something we need to think. Agricultural accounting is going to change, but if we don't participate, we will be left with the same standard that we don't like. So my friends, please join in the effort of collaboration to make standards better.